Despite being dead for over 400 years at this point, William Shakespeare's classic plays continue to be adapted even in our modern era. This could easily be attributed to his masterful comprehension and utility of the English language, with which he uses to craft brilliant explorations of the human condition love, hatred, betrayal, guilt, etc. Despite being altered to fit the new landscape of the world with its modern technological advancements and ever changing societal customs, values, and beliefs, the bard's messaging continues to ring true throughout these modern adaptations, such as in the 2005 BBC TV miniseries Shakespeare Retold, specifically its take on what is potentially the most infamous Shakespearean tale, Macbeth, or as it is now, MacChef. MacChef keeps the core plot points and characters from the original story, as well as its major themes and messaging. Ambition is one of the most major driving forces in both renditions. Macbeth, Thane of Glamis, and Joe Macbeth desire power more than anything and are led to taking drastic measures to achieve what they believe they're owed. Shakespeare's original story is a cautionary tale of the price of violent ambition, especially when it came to breaking the perceived notion of the great chain of being, a principle based in a religious, specifically Catholic context, where God had ultimate power over anything and everything. Below were kings, whose status not only symbolized strength, but a closeness to God that was seemingly unattainable to the ordinary mortal man, with lesser nobles, then peasants, and then animals appearing down the hierarchy. In the play, this hierarchical structure is shown through King Duncan, who is the King of Scotland, and Macbeth, who, despite being a powerful lord himself, is lesser than the king in status, as ordained by the very universe itself. Despite taking place in the modern era, the movie MacChef still depicts such a chain of superiority, in a time when religion had become far more inconsequential and kings no longer reigned absolute, in the form of Michelin star chefs, a Michelin star being the highest prestige bestowed upon a restaurant. In a kitchen, traditionally, there is also a hierarchy, in which certain chefs possess more authority than others, gained less through a symbolic power, but through acknowledgement of their skills and achievements. Duncan exists in the movie, but rather than a great king is Duncan Doherty, a celebrity head chef who owns a Michelin star restaurant which he earned through his culinary prowess. In both versions of Macbeth, the titular characters are well respected and high ranking figures, and yet are lesser than Duncan in status. This leads both characters to be envious of their perceived betters, ambition to achieve the glory they believe they deserve being what drives them to perform such horrific acts as to murder Duncan in his sleep. This is, of course, portrayed as a bad thing in both the original and retelling, resulting in dire consequences for both versions of Macbeth, though it is for somewhat differing reasons. In the play, by killing King Duncan, Macbeth has now broken the sacred chain of being and defied the essential laws of nature, deciding rather to heed the words of three witches he'd met in some field. For this, he is punished with horrific visions, such as the iconic scene of him hallucinating a bloodied knife. Is this a dagger I see in front of me, with its handle pointing towards my hand? Come, let me hold you. Eh, well, I don't have you, but I can still see you? These visions could be seen as a result of divine judgment, spawned not only from Macbeth's deep sense of guilt and fear, symbolizing his declining mental state and descent into utter madness, but also as a consequence for his defiance of God and turn to the occult by listening to the witches. The movie takes place in a far more secular society, therefore focusing far less on the spiritual side of things and rather a more grounded take. The visions only begin to occur for Joe Macbeth in the movie after he commits the murder, which gives the impression the hallucinations are a mere facade triggered by severe mental anguish, not some message from the divine. The witches are replaced with bin men, who, despite being quite distinct from the witches in the original story, still clearly have some supernatural mysticism about them, with their prophecies seemingly coming true, as well as the same class disparity between them and the high class chefs. It's also worth noting the more convoluted plot Joe Macbeth and his wife Ella must devise to kill Duncan, as they must take into consideration modern forensic advancements used in the inevitable ensuing police investigation, and be highly discreet in disposing of the murder weapon and covering their tracks. Unlike the play, where Macbeth rather impulsively murders King Duncan's two chamberlains outside his bedchamber, which Duncan Doherty lacks as he's only a chef. The prophecies themselves are also tailored to their distinct time periods, especially the second batch in which Macbeth is warned of Macduff. Both prophecies use clever loopholes and technicalities in their wording to obfuscate their true meanings, but the prophecy is greatly altered in the movie to better fit thematically with the modern setting. The original prophecy claimed, Be bloody, bold, and resolute. Laugh to scorn the power of man, for none of woman born can harm Macbeth. It is this that gives Macbeth a false sense of invincibility for the remainder of the play, as he believes that no living person can kill him, only for it to be revealed that Macduff, a character whose family is brutally murdered uh, as sent by Macbeth, was born of a caesarean section, meaning he was not traditionally birthed of a woman. Despite its supposed diversion from the confines of the prophecy, it is a convoluted explanation and is greatly fallacious, as, in modern medical terms at least, having a C section performed does not whatsoever mean someone has not been birthed. The remake mends this flaw by entirely changing the prophecy to say that pigs will fly before you're harmed, pigs will land on your head before you're harmed. The prophecy not only better fits the modern setting by using a saying that emerged and was popularized after Shakespeare's assumed death, but also fixes the somewhat ludicrous double meaning behind the original by exchanging it for something that does in fact make more logical sense with knowledge of modern slang terms. Pig being a term for police officers who fly and land on Macbeth's head by means of a helicopter flying and landing on top of the restaurant. Helicopters, of course, were not around in Shakespearean times. This prophecy uses subversion in the same way the original play does, but alters it to make more sense in a modern context. Overall, Macbeth and MacChef are essentially the same story, and yet due to tweaks in context, seem to be very different stories on the outside. Yet it is due to this framework set by William Shakespeare we still see the great messaging behind the tale of betrayal and bloodshed in Macbeth, and we still learn the same important lesson on ambition, morals,